It is Monday, June 16, 2025. I'd like to call the Borough Assembly regular meeting to order. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Jensen,
Excused?
Member Marsh,
Here?
Member Newman,
Here.
Member Schwartz,
Excused?
Member Stanton Gregor,
Here.
Member Lynn,
Here.
Member Valentine.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. It's now time for the voluntary pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the approval of the minutes from the regular assembly meeting, minutes from June 2nd, 2025. Could I get a motion?
I'd move to approve the minutes of June 2nd, 2025.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have amendment and approval of meeting agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as it stands.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have public hearings. There are none for this evening, nor are there bid awards. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to be heard on items related to the agenda or on Zoom? Clerk, do we have anybody on Zoom?
There's no one on Zoom related to the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have persons to be heard on items unrelated to the agenda. I believe we have one person calling in on that. Clerk, would you?
Yes, we do. Becky, you can go ahead and unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. My name is Becky White, and I'm speaking remotely, and I might lose connectivity, so I'll try to be brief. Unless something has changed in the last couple of days, contained in the reconciliation bill is a provision for, quote, mandatory disposal of about 3 million acres of Forest Service and BLM public lands in 11 states, specifically for residential housing. I refer to page 30 to 41 of the legislative text. Listed alphabetically, Alaska is at the top of the list. The proposed provision is very problematic with nearly identical issues which the borough considered last year regarding the development of mental health lands out the paved Mitkoff Highway. And I emphasize paved because it's pretty close to town and there are still a ton of problems. In short, I refer to the development costs associated with road construction and access, power, sewage, and planning oversight issues. As far as I can tell, there's no funding attached or cash-strapped small communities or for development of this raw land. In my mind, it is short-sighted and would create far more problems than it would solve. I request that the Assembly send a resolution of opposition that the disposal of Tongass land would not solve Petersburg's housing shortage and that it would be best to keep the land in federal hands. KFSK's Hannah Flora wrote in a March 11, 2024 story which outlined the problems borough officials identified with the mental health lands disposal. It seems the issues identified in that piece would be no different with the proposed federal land disposal. And in fact, one could simply replace the Forest Service lands for mental health lands in the article. And finally, food for thought, it was a quote from the borough manager, Steve Giesbrecht, in the piece when he wisely told the trust land officials that, quote, when they sell undeveloped land, the borough is forced to try to fix the problems after the fact. And thank you very much for considering my request.
All right, thank you for your input there. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, that moves us to boards, commissions, and committee reports. We don't have any this evening, nor do we have anything on the consent agenda. Report of other officers. In the mayor's report, June 16, 2025, Amy Hollingsted Day. At the May 19, 2025 Assembly meeting, Mayor Jensen declared June 28, 2025 to be the first annual Amy Hollingsted Day In appreciation of Ms. Hollingstad's enduring contributions as a civil rights pioneer and advocate for Alaska Native peoples, her legacy as the First Lady for the First People has inspired generations. On June 28th, between noon and 3 p.m., PIA will be hosting a festival to celebrate Amy Hollingstad Day in the PIA parking lot on 12th and Hagen Street. And you may go to the PIA Facebook page or the PIA website at piatribal.org for more information. Then that brings us next to Manager Giesbrecht's reports.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
The SCBA testing at the fire hall was performed on our remaining tanks. They're still out of service. Tanks will need to be completely out of service by the end of 2027. The compressor maintenance was completed that week. This is an item that we've potentially will receive some earmarked funds to replace. Volunteer Fire Department, the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard Auxiliary will be conducting another flare-off event on June 20th at the Scow Bay boat launch. Coast Guard and the Auxiliary will be presenting information on the different styles of flares and when to use them. The Volunteer Fire Department will be assisting members of the public with deploying expired flares. This is a good event to bring your expired flares to for disposal and to teach boaters of all ages to be comfortable with signal flares. There will be gloves and safety glasses to wear during the event. For more information, contact the fire station at 772-3355. The Scow Bay Burn Tower had its floor removed to replace some rotten floor joists. The rest of the tower remains in mostly good condition. Staff and Aaron continue to work on finding a new location for the training apparatus so we can maximize the expansion of the Scow Bay Boatyard. State of Alaska Department of Natural Resources has provided the borough with $12,000 in funding for this year's maintenance at the Ernie Haugen Public Use Area, which includes Greens Camp, Wilson Creek, and Banana Point. This will allow us to make some repairs to broken windows and doors, pump the outhouses, and perform some other minor upkeep. The borough's 5-year cooperative maintenance agreement with the state is expiring this December, so we have to also begun work on a renewal of that agreement. The streets crew is installing water and sewer lines to the borough-owned lot located at 1200 Lake Street. Should be done before in this budget year. We've got a couple of parts still coming on AML, and that should be completed. The borough's household hazardous waste event was a big success. Over 19,000 pounds of hazardous material was collected, packaged, and sent out for disposal. Assistant Director Morrell has submitted the borough's landfill permit renewal application to DEC, and it is currently under review. And the water group is working with RMC Engineering to troubleshoot some issues with the Cabin Creek Pump Station variable frequency drives, or VFDs. Water production is not affected. Progress on the Pump Station 4 and Force Main upgrade project was halted after a report was received about an active eagle nest in the vicinity. The borough, P&D engineers, and Rock and Road are coordinating to modify the sequence of construction to allow the project to proceed while staying within federal requirements for working around eagle nesting sites. There will be some additional costs to the project related to the delay and the modification of work sequence. These will be brought to the assembly in the form of a change order at a future meeting. We really don't know the costs yet until we kind of get the permit process worked out and they tell us what we can and can't do. And then we have to figure out how that impacts Rock and Road and the construction. So it's, I wish I could tell you as far as what the cost increase would be, but we'll know, we'll let you know as soon as we know. Reminder to boaters of the no wake zone outside all 3 harbors, and responsibilities for wake are on the owner operator. And Petersburg received 2 of our patent deeds from the state of Alaska as part of its municipal entitlement, one for 144 acres in Duncan Canal and the other for 33 acres at Cape Fanshawe. These parcels were approved for conveyance in 2021. We are in our second and last week of actually the closure at Parks and Rec. Actually, I think that was last week, so I think they are open as we speak. Parks and Rec will be hosting a swimming lesson assessment to get students into the proper class. Assessment and swimming lessons will be advertised soon. Please contact Parks and Rec for more information. July 2nd will be the Community Center's celebration. This year marks 20 years of countless memories created at the facility. Come by the Community Center between 5 to 7 to join the festivities. We are working on finishing up some maintenance at assisted living so we can move some residents down to the first floor. One double room is already taken by a married couple, and we're reviewing applications for another two-person occupancy room. Assisted living parking lot is finished. Big thank you to Public Works and to Horion Associates for helping us get that done. And assisted living is working with their staff for additional training required on blood-borne pathogens. The SEPA North End maintenance shutdown started on June 10th and ended this afternoon. That's what I thought. Power Light customers we encouraged everybody to conserve electricity and energy during the billing cycle, and hopefully everybody heard and listened. Power & Light issued an invitation to bid for the Scow Bay generation transformer in May. The solicitation has generated a lot of interest and is hoped that the competitive pricing and production schedules will result. The bid opening is scheduled for June 20th. Crystal Lake has been spilling due to heavy rainfall, despite the Power & Light operators turning the hydro up to over 2,000 kWs to take advantage of the excess water. Field collection for the GIS project will occur from June 16th to the 27th. The vendor, RDI, will have 2 technicians in Petersburg to collect data and train our field crews on how to update the mapping data once the project is complete. Big thanks to Senator Murkowski and Congressman Begich's office for support of 4 of our capital projects: $3 million for the hospital, $2 million for Banana Point, $8 million for the wastewater plant revisions, and $300,000 for the updated SCBA tanks for the fire department. This is one step closer to receiving grants, although it's not a guarantee at this point that we're actually going to get the money. Clerk's office and I are working with other staff to recruit for several department head positions: Assistant Public Works Director, pending approval of the appointment of Aaron to the director, and the Power & Light Director position. Carl's last day will be July 1st, 2026, and Chris leaves us in early September of 2025. I have forwarded a draft agreement to American Cruise Lines for their review and edits. Once we have an agreement in hand, it will go to the Assembly for their review and approval. And that's it, unless there's questions.
Any questions? Yes, Mayor Lynn.
On Banana Point, if we were to get that $2 million, where does that put us with the funding now, since we lost some, or we didn't get some earlier?
Through the mayor, we actually already have $900,000 promised to us from the Denali Corporation. That's going to be focused on the breakwater. The $2 million would be to finish up any leftover work on the breakwater. Also, potentially a boarding float is the hope that we can have for Banana Point, and potentially replacing the restrooms out there and maybe do some grading on the parking lot. So we did get $2 million originally for that project, and then it got canceled, and now it's back on the list to be approved.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right, thank you for your report.
Ma'am.
All right, moving on to unfinished business. Ordinance 2025-06, an ordinance amending section 4.28.130 of the Petersburg Municipal Code relating to the sales tax exemption for seniors to limit the exemption to low-income seniors, and directing that the proposed amendment be submitted to the qualified voters of the borough. Third and final reading. If approved in 3 readings, this ordinance will amend section 4.28.130 of the Municipal Code to limit the sales tax exemption to low-income seniors, and directing that the proposed amendment be submitted to the qualified voters of the borough. This ordinance 2025-06 was unanimously approved in its first and second readings. Could I get a motion, please?
I move to approve this ordinance. Second.
All right, Member Stanton Gregor made the motion. Member Newman seconded it. Any discussion? Yes, Member Stanton Gregor.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. For those who weren't listening to the first or second readings of this, just a brief synopsis. This was something Finance Director Tao came up with in terms of ways to generate much needed revenue for many things in our community, schools, etc. For those in the history department, this is something that's come before the voters before and failed in years past, and one of the primary, or a similar version. One of the most resounding pieces of feedback we heard about that was it did not take steps to protect the most vulnerable portions of our population, low-income seniors. And so this was crafted with that in mind, and I'll be voting yes, and let the voters decide if that's something they want to pursue. Thanks.
Len.
Thank you. I talked about this on Borough Business today, but listening to Liz Bacon last meeting, the clerk followed up on a number of issues for me. One of them had to do with if the applications were received but weren't processed for a long period of time, what could the borough do to take care of that? Another question she had to do with those folks that were making money just falling outside of the curve, so to speak, or the limit of which the state set. There's nothing that I can, or we can push on that. I want to talk a little bit about when the clerk question that we went back and forth with that clerk and I went back and forth with the attorney on is it this ordinance, if there needs to be an adjustment and for, let's say, a lag time between applications received and their processing, we do have in the ordinance, it allows the assembly to pass an ordinance which would take care of that. We would not have to go back to the voters to do that. And the second part of that is that I also asked the clerk if we to draft an amendment to the ordinance to take care of that problem. And that was done, and I have that ordinance, I have that amendment in front of me, although I chose not to introduce it since we do have the ability later on. And in discussion with the clerk, I think we both come to the same conclusion that we have the ability to make changes if needed at later date with what we have in this ordinance. So I'm quite pleased that we went as far as what we possibly could with Liz Bacon's questions. And I'm quite satisfied we have the ability to make adjustments. And with that, would the clerk add or change anything I've said?
So the change could be made if we find that the application process is taking many months, it would be by resolution of the assembly. So one reading and that application process could be adjusted by the assembly.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Member Newman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marsh,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Lynn,
Yes.
Member Stanton Greger. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 2025-07, an ordinance updating chapter 14.16 of the municipal code entitled Electric Utility, third and final reading. If adopted in three readings, ordinance 2025-07 will ordinance electric utility code and increase customer charges and electric rates. Once ordinance 2025-07 was ordinance 2025-07 was unanimously approved in its first and second readings. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Member Lynn put the motion forward, and Member Valentine seconded it. Any discussion? Member Stanton Greger.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, and I'm going to cover all three of these ordinances, similar to what I said before, in case somebody wasn't tuning in for the first three readings. Know that this decision or these ordinances were put forth after a K4 rate study analysis, which was presented to the Assembly a little over a month ago. These rate increases, if approved, were put in there to keep these utilities solvent and to continue to maintain infrastructure and to keep up with state and federal licensing. And I know sometimes by the third reading, I feel like we've talked into the ground, but I try to remind myself this might be the first time somebody's listening. So I want to give a brief thumbnail explanation. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
Member Stanton Greger,
Yes.
Member Lynn,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marsh,
Yes.
Member Newman.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 5-0. Next, we have ordinance 2025-08, an ordinance updating chapter 14.04.420 of the municipal code entitled Water Rate Schedule and Fees. Third and final reading. If adopted in three readings, ordinance 2025-08 will increase water rates per the rate schedule in the attached table. An annual rate review indicates that these increases are needed to keep up with the increased cost to the borough. Ordinance 2025-08 was unanimously approved in its first and second readings. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
You, Member Valentine put the motion forward and Member Lynn seconded it. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Marsh?
Yes.
Member Newman?
Yes.
Member Valentine?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Stanton Greger?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have ordinance 2025-09, an ordinance updating chapter 14.08.320 of the municipal code entitled Sewer Collection Rates, third and final reading. If adopted in 3 readings, ordinance 2025-09 will increase sewer collection rates over the next 5 years. An annual rate review of the utility indicates these increases are needed to keep up with the increased cost to the borough. This ordinance was unanimously approved in its first and second readings. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
Bert Newman put forward the motion. Member Valentine put the second out. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Member Valentine?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marsh?
Yes.
Member Stanton Greger?
Yes.
Member Newman?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. And the next one we have is ordinance 2025-10, an ordinance adding section N, marine passenger ship refuse, to chapter 14.12.140 entitled Rates for Refuse Collection, third and final reading. If adopted in 3 readings, ordinance 2025-10 will add section N, marine passenger ship refuse, to allow for fees providing sanitation services to marine passenger ships. This ordinance was unanimously approved in its first and second readings. Could you get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Member Valentine put forward the motion. Member Lynn seconded it. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Member Stanton Greger?
Yes.
Member Newman?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Valentine?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marsh?
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have new business. Ordinance 2025-11 reads, an ordinance amending the official zoning map for Service Area 1 of the Petersburg Borough to rezone Government Lot 12, Section 35, Township 58 South, Range 79 East, Copper River Meridian, parcel number 01-014-010, located at 1016 Sandy Beach Road, from rural residential to single-family residential. At the direction of the Assembly, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on May 13, 2025 regarding the proposed rezone and recommends the Assembly rezone the parcel prior to a public auction. If approved in 3 readings, this ordinance will rezone parcel ID 01-014-010 located at 1016 Sandy Beach Road from rural residential to single-family residential. Could I get a motion, please?
Move to approve ordinance 2025-11.
Second.
Thank you. Member Stan Greger put the motion forward. Member Newman seconded it. Any discussion? So to clarify, this parcel is adjacent to the one that was recently rezoned for sale at auction. And so this also is, would be similar to that, just to keep it uniform. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Marsh?
Yes.
Member Newman?
Yes.
Member Valentine?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Member Stanton Greger?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have ordinance 2025-12, an ordinance of the Petersburg Borough adjusting the FY 2026 budget for known changes. If approved in 3 readings, the supplemental budget would make 3 changes to the Property Development Fund. The first, add $50,000 to provide utility connection stubs to the property lines of borough lots being proposed to sell in the future. Number 2, remove $15,000 of expenses for a public works survey that was completed under budget in FY 2025. And number 3, add $9,300 to use as a local match for a grant application being administered by Alaska Municipal League for a Safe Streets and Roads for All program. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Member Valentine put forward the motion and Member Lynn seconded it. Discussion. Member Stan Greger.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel great about this ordinance. I spoke with staff about it, but I was wondering, just for those listening at home, if either the borough manager or the finance director could just kind of outline why this is before us now, like after the budget passed. Again, just for those listening at home, in case they're wondering about it. Either one of you is fine. I don't care.
I can jump in through the mayor. So
Please and thank.
I'll hit each of these three individually. So the 50,000 to do utility connections, this is a project that the Assembly approved back in '23. We didn't get it done. We got the Lake Street lot should be done before the end of the year. The other two lots did not get done. That's on me. Basically, we had all these other property development projects going on, and we were in the process of doing the budget and trying to look for savings, and I did not add this into this upcoming budget year. Shame on me, sorry about that. We're fixing that now. This adds those lots back to our project list to add utilities to them for future sale. They're removing the 15,000 expenses from Public Works. We had that big culvert collapse a couple of years ago, and we've been trying to find a seismic engineer ever since then to take a look at our Public Works building to make sure that everything was going to be safe. It is, by the way, which was good news to hear. And it came in 15,000 under budget, so we wanted to correct the budget for that. And the 9,300 to use as a local match for a grant application. There's several cities joining us with AML kind of leading it. The Safe Streets program is a federal program that you can use to build crosswalks and sidewalks and, you know, lights and stuff for help making it easier for people to walk. To really get the grant, you have to do a plan first. This is for the first step. Just says basically we'll create the plan working with AML. At the end of the plan, it does not mean we're getting any money beyond the money for the plan. And then we can decide based on what the plan says, is this something we want to pursue to do sidewalks or something else that the plan points out. So again, our portion of it would be about $9,300 and would provide us with a plan that we could then support sending to the Department of Transportation if we decided to proceed with the grant. So
Thank you, Manager Giesbrecht. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So with the Safe Streets roads and what you're saying, so the 9,300, we basically kind of do our own, like, hey, you know, we're gonna add sidewalk here, crosswalk here, and then send that to AML, and then they will be like, oh, hey, we'll give you 800,000 for that. Is that kind of how it works?
through the mayor, not quite, but the plan part of it is AML will actually help us. They have a grant writer on staff. They'll help us walk through the plan process. My staff will get involved as far as answering questions. How many sidewalks do you have? Where's your school? Where are your population centers? And they'll come up with a plan for us. Of course, we get to sign off on it and say, yeah, it makes sense, or no, it doesn't. And then once the plan's in place, you're exactly right. We can then, the assembly could actually then decide, do we want to pursue this or not? By looking at the plan, you'd say, this is what we would want to do this work. The assembly then has the right to say, nah, I don't think so. We don't want to do that. Or, yeah, that's a good idea. We would submit that through Department of Transportation as a actually construction grant. PIA might be involved in it. This program is at times been inside their transportation program. I don't know if it is. Susan Harai was out of town, so this came up really quickly, and I didn't have a chance to check with PIA to see if, you know, we could partner with them on parts of it, particularly the construction side. They've done sidewalks for us before, and potentially that would be, we could throw some work their way. But again, we're not there yet. This would be just to get the plan done. The plan then becomes something for, you know, the assembly and staff to look at to say, is this something we want to do?
Yes.
And are we allowed, so can we give suggestions on like an area that people in the borough or people in this town that might want lights or whatever now, or would that be later? Sorry.
Sure, through the mayor. That would be part of the plan. Building the plan process is definitely a two-way street. They tell us what kind of works with the grant, and we go, okay, those things sound good, and we would give them ideas on where we would want that to happen. But these are federal grants, so which means they have a lot of rules about what you can use the money for. And that's honestly, you know, what you look for with the plan. The plan outlines within your own community what the grant will cover. And so, yes, we can throw ideas at them, but they also have, I have to say, oh, that one's not covered by the grant. So, you know,
okay. Thank you.
You have a comment?
My understanding is that some of these projects like you're talking about can't be done unless we have this plan in place, one. But two, we also have a couple we've paid for looking at the traffic pattern at the grade school and a few other things. We already have plans in place. And my understanding is that this would put, if we approve this plan, this may put us in a better place to be able to provide funding to change the sidewalks and that type of thing in that area that would help us. Possibility.
through the mayor, that is correct. Yeah, it's, that's one of the projects that we've looked at and led us to want to try to get this plan done could this help us with the driveway and walk up and stuff at the elementary school. Again, we have no idea if it qualifies yet. I mean, but you're right. If we have a plan, it's much easier to get the construction funds.
Also, we don't have a knowledge of the extent of what it will cover geographically here in town. or-
Yes,
Okay.
Mayor, yeah, and that's the challenge is
Mhm.
we don't, the process of creating the plan often is we learn more about what it can and cannot do. And we'll have to go through the process to really fully understand, will it fund this? How much of something it'll fund? What parts of town? I mean, again, because it's safe streets to school, things designed around the concept of finding ways that are better, safer for kids to get from their homes to schools. So often focuses on things like driveways and things as well as sidewalks and stuff, so.
On the first item of adding $50,000 to provide utility connection stubs to the property lines, I do have a bit of heartburn on that because this was passed in 2023. And I know it seems like, well, if I recall correctly, the conversation with PIA was in the works perhaps at that time, but on 8th Street rather than the increased airport subdivision. And the two remaining lots, so the Lake Street is going to happen before the money's allocated before the end of 2025 FY year. Okay. And then the other two pieces, I've got some trouble with those as well. I'm not even sure that they're buildable. I listened to the Planning Commission meeting regarding the Oslog piece, which is a triangle adjacent to a right-of-way and possibly incorporating the right-of-way into the property to make it more utilitarian, I guess, usable. So I don't know if that needs to happen first before we start digging in utilities. And they are also across the street is also what I understand. So it's going to involve a little more in-depth digging to access those.
So I can answer partly some of those questions. So you're 100% correct. This is one of the reasons that, not a good one, but it was one of the reasons we didn't push hard on it, was because the lots are not really great compared to some of the others that were happening at the time. We had 8th Street, as you talked about. Now we have Klingon Haida, the Greg Johnson stuff that he's working on, and as well as Skylark. So we did not put a high priority in this. We should have, and because the assembly took the trouble to do a resolution. So we should have done a better job on that, and that's on me. The two lots you're talking about, Oslog is a triangle-shaped property. It appears to me that I should bring forward a future resolution that changes how that's done and find out, can we get rid of the easement to make that a more buildable lot? It still has a problem of having to cross a road, so that gets more expensive. The Sandy Beach, smaller lot on Sandy Beach is very narrow. It's also right next to where our outflow piping will go for pump station 4, which also poses a problem with eagle issues. So if those permits work out and we can work with Rock and Road, putting utilities into that lot may be very cheap. So But we don't know that right now. So it's my job. I got to do a better job communicating with the assembly on this. I got to find out, what's it going to take to get rid of that easement so that the Oslog Street lot could be a little better and maybe more interesting for people. And then on Sandy Beach, we'll just work with the contractor to see, hey, what would you charge us to do this? If it turns out to be a huge number, I may come back to the assembly for both of those and just say, do you want to, here's the new numbers. Do you want to proceed with this or not? But I can't do that right now. I don't know what those costs are going to be on that lot. And then on Oslog, how long that'll take and do we need to do that? I think it's probably worth it if we can get rid of the easement. That makes that lot far more buildable. Still have some expenses with cutting the road, but we have a paving company coming to Petersburg in 2026. Maybe, as long as that's a far way out there, but maybe we could take advantage of that. And if we have to cut that road, we could, figure out what it would cost to fix the cuts. So anyway, lots of things in there. I don't want to promise that we could put utilities in. We could start on it 1st of July. I'm not recommending that. I'm waiting just to let's go through some of these other processes to make sure that we get the best lots we can for folks. And, I'll make sure the assembly's in the loop on that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I think these additional lots give people more options, and options are always good. So I guess we need to take a vote on this if there is no further discussion. Clerk, please call the roll.
Member Newman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marsh,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Lynn,
Yes.
Member Stanton Greger.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Next, we have Resolution 2025-12, Special Use Permit, a resolution authorizing a special use permit for a portion of the Ramona Street right-of-way. If approved, this resolution will authorize a special use permit for John and Miriam Swanson for an approximately 650 square foot portion of the Ramona Street right-of-way as a driveway to access their home located at 1400 North Nordic. The Planning Commission reviewed the application at the November 2023-24 meeting and recommended that the Assembly approve the application. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Valentine put forward the motion. Member Lynn gave the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Member Stanton Greger,
Yes.
Member Valentine,
Yes.
Member Newman,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marsh,
Yes.
Member Lynn,
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have the Petersburg Volunteer Fire Department rental agreement. Director Hankins requests that a rental agreement between the Petersburg Volunteer Fire Department and the borough be approved for purposes of establishing proof of residence for the volunteers' local post office box. Director Hankins, would you mind giving us some background on that, please?
Just for procedure, do you want to make a motion first?
Thank you for that. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Member Valentine put forward the motion. Member Newman seconded. Thank you, Director Hankins.
Sorry for that. So the issue that we have is there are two sides to the fire department. There is the borough-owned side, the side that you hired me to run. And then chapter 3.32.090 gives the volunteers permission to organize. They use the same address that the borough owns to operate out of. When it comes time to renew your post office box, you need to bring a form of ID identifying the person who is responsible for renewing the box, and it can only be one person. And then you are supposed to bring a voter ID card, a lease, rental, or a lease, mortgage, or deed of trust, or vehicle homeowner's insurance. The association has none of that. So in the past, we have been able to use letters from the clerk or letters from our bank that we hold accounts in, which got that approved. Those have no longer been accepted, and it seems like every year there is a new thing to use. Last year, we used the tax roll for the property, but that was technically incorrect because the borough owns the property, not the association. And so this was an attempt to formalize that the association had a physical address there for purposes of renewing the box. It has come to my attention through the postmaster, through one of the assembly members, that this may not satisfy it'd be a satisfiable lease to get that box. And so that's counter to the information I have, but for purposes of making sure we do this right the first time, so we don't have to go back and change anything, I would actually request that this motion be amended to table this item until another time.
Representative Gregor.
Yeah, before we go further with that, Director Hankins, can you put a timeline on that? Because if we table it indefinitely, it's just kind of dead. So I would gladly make a motion to set it aside to a certain date to revisit it. If you could give me some direction on that, please.
Just to make sure schedules have time to align and such, can we table it to the first meeting in July?
Is that enough time, you think?
I think so. Enough time to meet with the postmaster and go over options again, so.
In that case, I would move to set aside this agenda item until the first meeting in July.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to table this until the first meeting in July. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so motion is tabled. Thank you. Next, we have the Public Works Director hire. Manager Giesbrecht and Public Works Director Cotta request approval to hire Aaron Merle, the borough's current Assistant Public Works Director, for the position of Public Works Director beginning July 30, 2025, at an annual base salary of $103,000. Did I get a motion, please?
We'll move.
Second.
Thank you. Member Lynn put forward the motion. Member Valentine put the second out. Question, discussion. Member Stanton Gregor.
Yeah, no questions. I just wanted to publicly say I'm glad, Aaron, that you expressed interest in this position, and thank Director Cotta and the Borough Manager for recommending him to us. Obviously, I hope this passes unanimously, and assuming it will, I look forward to working with you in the future.
Any other discussion? All right, clerk, please call the roll.
Member Valentine?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Marsh?
Yes.
Member Stanton Gregor?
Yes.
Member Newman?
Yes.
Passes 5-0. Congratulations, Director Morrell. Next, we have communications. You can read the correspondence that the Assembly has received since May 29, 2025, online or in the Borough packet. And Assembly discussion items. Any Assembly member comments?
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you, Mayor Marsh. Just briefly to the call in, and what also happened with Member Lynn and I on the Borough Call-in show today about the Senate reconciliation bill on the sale of federal lands. I just wanted to say publicly that before the first meeting in July, I'll be getting with the clerk to work on a resolution in opposition to this, because from what I've read thus far, I don't like how this could impact our community, but it's going to take some time to work on the language. So I just want to say publicly, I will have something before the Assembly at the first meeting in July regarding that topic.
I would like to make a note of, make mention of a note that Clerk Regula and I had a discussion, and she acted very quickly. So you will now find online a list of ordinances and resolutions going back all the way to the formation of the borough for public's interest to help keep us accountable and full transparency. And some of it's pretty interesting reading. You can remind yourself of what you voted on in previous years and what passed and what didn't. So I would encourage the public to dig into that. Member Valentine.
Thank you. And also, recently, just kind of for anybody who's listening, just a total heads up for any kind of scammers that are coming out there. I know that I went to the planning and zoning meeting representing a friend of mine, and he had seen something that looked pretty legit. And so if anybody's out there that has any questions that coming from the borough, just call. I mean, it doesn't ever hurts to ask questions. So just want to put that out there because it was pretty good looking. It had everybody's name on it. It was wild. So just keep a heads up out there and always ask questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
And speaking to that, Member Valentine, we're changing our process for the applications. We're going to have a cover sheet with all of their personal information, their phone number, their email. And then that will not go with the application to the Planning Commission and won't be included in the packet. So anytime you see, like in this packet, there are some Planning Commission, all of that information is redacted. So hopefully we can circumvent some of that. And we'll also put a notification on our website that lets people know the borough will not be emailing you requesting money and to call if you have any questions. So thank you for mentioning that.
It's a good heads up. Thank you. If there are no other comments or recognitions from the assembly, could I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Sorry.
No.